When we talk about Bharati Puja, I want to start with looking at two words, both Bharati and Puja to begin with. Obviously, we all know that Bharati is goddess Saraswati, we call her Vani, Vagdevi, and she goes by many names. But Bharati name is extremely appropriate, not only because we are from the Bharatakanda and Bharatavarsha and Bharatadesha, so we are all started as Bharatiyas, no matter what our citizenship is, still there is a certain deeper connection to not only the Bharatadesha and the idea of Deva Bhasha, Samskrta Bhasha, which is the mother tongue at some level of our culture. So again, when we say Bharatiya, we are the Bharatiyas as the source of our life is as Bharatiyas. In that respect, the word Bharati means significantly more for us than many other people. The specific reason Bharati Puja is extremely important also is because of the word that we use, Vagdevi. She is the one who lives at the tip of our tongue and who actually helps us, who graces us the capability to be able to learn the language Samskritam, to teach that language, to be able to understand and appreciate the Vedas and Upanishads and Vedangas and various our scriptures in original language. Like even in, for example, Christianity or many of the Abrahamic traditions, they look for which is the original source. How was the Bible written originally? When you look at whether it is Aramaic or whether it is Jewish, whether you look at each time they go back to the original source, they keep looking for what is the original interpretation. How was it written in the beginning? So for us, by the grace of Vagdevi, we have the ability to read, understand, help other people to learn what it really meant by the original language, the Deva Bhasha itself. So in that respect, I am again grateful to think about our puja being the Bharati Puja. The other thing which is also interesting is when we are teaching and learning Samskritam, because the Samskritam is the foundation on which the Samskriti, our culture, is built, we are not only imbibing the language, we are also imbibing the subconscious and at a deeper level the roots of our own culture. Whether we like it or not, whether we appreciate it or not, there are multiple layers. The ocean, like for example, the ocean of milk, when we look at Chirapti, the idea is that there are no waves in it. There are, as you know, there are 7 oceans, but the Lord Vishnu is supposed to lie on the ocean of milk. What is so unique? Because there are no waves, there is no variation, there is only absolute stillness. And absolute, what you might call the milk, the ocean of Amrita itself is something that we have. Hopefully, when we do the Bharati Puja, it gets us into that ocean, the deeper ocean of our Bharatiya Samskriti. Through Samskritam, we can actually get in touch with not only our roots, but also connect with everything that there is without the time and space. Bharati allows us to connect to the past as well as the future. So that's the first thing which I get from the word Bharati. The second word, Puja, I tried to look quite a bit to see whether there are Sanskrit roots for word Puja. I couldn't find any. People say, flowers, Pu, but Ja, of course, something that came out of, I can look at, but it was not very satisfactory to think about Puja. Then when I tried to look at the roots, there are some Agama Granthas and there are other kinds of Granthas where I could see the word Puja. But Puja originally seemed to have indicated various words. For example, in Rigveda it refers to Indra to a certain extent. When it is describing something about Indra, they look at. So puja, what I found is, you can translate it as devotion and faith. Whatever you do, it doesn't have to be to the god, goddess. It can be to the teachers. It can be to the people whom we respect. So anything that we do with certain amount of devotion and certain amount of faith, if we can do that, that we can call it puja. Especially in the context of Bharati Puja, what we can think about for today is whatever we do with certain amount of reverence. And it is to praise, like we started with the two wonderful Gitas, which are about reconnecting us to the Samskrta Bhasha and why it is Samskrta Mata. When we look at that aspect of it, it is to invoke, to honor, to pay homage to describe, and through the words and through poems, through shlokas, through our lecture, how can we adore to a certain extent and worship the goddess Bharati? Whatever we do with those kinds of feelings is what you might call Bharati Puja. So let's explore what that puja could mean. So I just wanted to make sure that after some time, we get used to the word Bharati Puja. It becomes a routine. We do a lot of things on autopilot. But puja is not something that you want to do it with autopilot. We want to do it with a certain amount of reverence and a certain amount of awareness and mindfulness. If we can bring that, whatever we do with faith and with reverence, that karyam becomes puja. So that is one thing. Why should we do it? What is the reason Samskrta Bharati does it? And yes, there is a samarpanam is one of the intentions, but where does that come from? I would say Bharati Puja, we do it because we want to honor Vagdevi for giving us the gift of the language. Number one. Number two, it's also to honor our teachers, honor our tradition, and honor our students. Parasparam bhavayanta. We need to be able to get that feeling of honoring, because we are trying to create Samskrta Kutumbam. We are trying to not just create Samskrta Kutumbam, we want to create a Samajam where that is the foundation, and certain Samskriti and what we learn becomes the roots through which we get nurtured. We are shooting through the stars we try to look at, but we need to be deeply rooted while we are shooting through. I think that rootedness comes from Samskritam, and that honoring that connection will help us to honor ourselves, and whatever we learn, it becomes Nitya Nutanam. It is not just Sanatanam, but also becomes Nitya Nutanam. It has to be continually renewed. How do we do that? Is through Bharati Puja. And in some respects, Bharati Puja is about Samarpanam. Yes, there is an element of whatever we contribute as the certain honor that we do. This happens to be the Giving Tuesday, and I think it's a great opportunity to contribute what we can. And I think Gita Bhagini was saying there is even a Facebook page and some other things, and please convey it to various people. But it is not just the money. See, money, many of us in different ways, different times we also do. But checkbook charity can only go so far in the context of Bharati Puja. While that may be something that is easily done, but what is the feeling with which you do the Samarpana? What else are you doing Samarpana? How are our actions? What makes our actions Samarpana? What makes them, instead of we becoming a karmisti, how can we become karma yogi with all our actions that we are doing? For that, we need to re-examine what are our intentions, sankalpa. Why are we doing what we are doing? Not just doing it as a samasti, as a family, but also each of us need to think about, why do I do this? Why do I want to honor and be participant in doing this Bharati Puja? That is something I want you to begin to think about. So let's look at what it means. Obviously, the context is also really appropriate for doing the Bharati Puja. there are three contexts that I can think about. One is Samskrta Bharati is just celebrating its Rajatotsava, 25th year, which is a remarkable event by itself. Several thousand people have been taught, several thousand people have been participating, and our contribution to ourselves and to our children is one thing. We are able to also contribute to back to the country. In the beginning, as Govinda Mahodaya and we were talking like a few hundred, few $1,000s. Now we are able to talk about Samskrta Bhavanam in Virginia, or we contribute a way in which we create a legacy for Samskritam everywhere in the world. That is possible because of various things that we are doing in the 25th year. And let us see where we can celebrate and how we can celebrate the 50th Golden Jubilee, and something that we need to really visualize what we would like to create by the time. Second one, from the time perspective, we are entering 2020. We are completing the second decade of the 21st century in a few days, less than a month period. Interestingly, it is 2020 represents not just a new decade, but 2020 medically and ophthalmologically there is a significant. 2020 means it is the vision. It is actually having a clear, perfect vision. So you can see things very clearly. So if we take that as a vision forward, our vision to see where we live, how we live, what is that we are in the United States, in the Silicon Valley, in our families, what are we seeing? What is the vision that we can have for the 2020? Generally I recommend when we enter these kinds of auspicious things, think 10 years. For example, if any of you are having birthdays around this time, think about 10 years from now, what would you do? So like for example, people say, if you are celebrating 35th birthday, 25th birthday, 45th birthday, think about 5 years in the future. Where would I like to be 5 years from now? And also do the Simhavalokanam, like a reflection. 5 years, past 5 years, who are the people whom I am grateful for? Who are the people who really contributed to my life? What are in 5 years, what are the significant events? You might call them like a highlights and lowlights that have taken place. Create a lifeline and say like from 2014, and 6 months, if you do it, it will be like 10 divisions you can have on the x-axis. On the y-axis, you call them the highest top 10 moments, like 10, whatever you call it as a perfect 10, you put that, and at the bottom you put minus 10. Then you draw on that graph various events in your life in the past 5 years, which you map them, and then you examine how the past 5 years have helped you. Similarly, if you are celebrating something like 20, 30, 40, 50, like that, 60, if you are celebrating the year of a decade, representing a decade, do that for 10 years. If you are obviously in 2020 is one such opportunity that comes once in 10 years. So this is the second time, second reason for thinking about it. And the third one, obviously some of you have been more involved in it than others. Like for example, SAFL, the 10th year, it is Sanskrit as a foreign language. From what I understand, we almost have 500 students around United States. Our children who are born and brought up here are participating in learning the Samskritam as a second language, which is really a proud moment for many of you and many of us, because this is something that you have done well. For children to really get interested and to want to take this, and 500 of them to have the demand, and to be able to, some of you are, I'm sure, teaching, and some of you are participating in some of these SAFL activities. That's also another major milestone we can think about. If this is possible for 2020, if Bharati Puja is the opportunity to create a sankalpam for the next 10 years, next 5 years, whatever it is, what could be that sankalpam? What could be our vision going forward? There is a wonderful word, actually it's a phrase, it's called Tattvamasi, as you know, which is considered to be one of the 4 Mahavakyas. Even though there are many Mahavakyas, as you know, in our Upanishads and Vedas and some other things, but these four are representative, one from each of the what you call Vedas, and from different Aitareya Upanishad and different Upanishads. Tattvamasi comes from Chandogya Upanishad. The conversation between the father and the son, Uddalaka and Swetaketu, this is about helping a person. The context is also very, very important. Swetaketu, even though he was son of sage Uddalaka, who had great university in his house, where his Gurukulam was very well known far and wide, he never showed interest up to when he was like 7 years, 8 years. He never came and sat and learned what he needed to learn. He was happily going around his mother eating what you call modakam. Modakam khadayami, Samskrta. So just completely, he is happy to eat around but not sit in the classroom. So when father one day recognized and he said, Swetaketu, at your age, nobody in our family remained uneducated. See, this fellow was not dumb. He just didn't show interest. So he said, okay father, I understand. I'll come to classes from tomorrow. He said, no you won't. He said, you just told me that I need to get educated, and why are you not asking me to come to you? He said, if I were to be your teacher, you would have come without me asking you to come to the classes. That means you need to find a teacher whom you respect, where you will get educated as if he is your guru. You need to have that puja bhavana. You need to have that vidya, dadati vinayam tatapatra, all that you need to have. You don't have that with me, so that means this is not your Gurukulam. Go somewhere else. So he goes, finds a teacher, learns for whatever 12 or 18 years or whatever amount of time it took for him to master. He became the favorite student. He learnt a lot. Along with learning, he also learnt a lot of arrogance. We all know our children suddenly think parents don't know anything. Parents didn't get educated in the United States, so we know what it is. We will tell you how to be this way. Parents are the dumbest people. First, children go through, especially when they go through the teenage. I'm sure your children are not like that, but there are my children are many of them. So, when they do that, and by the way, he comes and he stood like a pillar, like a Shankaracharya commentary. When you look at something, he says stabda. He was like a pillar. He just stood there. Father understood. At that time, these people are extraordinarily wise. He understood as soon as he saw. He asked him, Swetaketu, what have you learned? He said, oh, I learned this, I learned that. He said, have you learned that? Learning of which all knowledge becomes available. Have you learned that? Seeing of which unseen becomes seen, unheard becomes heard. Have you understood that? Have you learned that? Scratched his head this way, he scratched us that way. And he said, my teacher doesn't know that. In Upanishadic period, he says, my teacher doesn't know that. Children know excuses first, then they learn other things. Father didn't give up. He said, Swetaketu, how do you know that your teacher doesn't know? Oh, I was his favorite student. If he were to know that, he would have taught me. He said, these kinds of deeper vidyas will not be taught to you because these are marma vidya. These are something that require contemplation, nididhyasana, not just Ravanam and Mananam. You need to have that kind of an attention. Did you know that this vidya exists? Did you ask your teacher for it? At that time, he realizes, my father is going to send me for 12 more years. But then, for the first time, he recognizes, my father knows a lot more than what I can learn in a school. With Vinayam, he says, Father, you seem to know, will you please teach me? So what he taught is the lesson called what you call Tattvamasi. You are that. You may be arrogant, you may think you do not know, but you are that. Similarly, Bharati Puja, what we are trying to bring in here is to help us to recognize you are it, people who are in this room, whoever is sitting in your chair, that person is blessed. And that person is contributing extraordinary value to the universe by being you, by doing what you are doing, learning what you are learning, teaching what you are learning, teaching what you are teaching. So for that, first of all, please, recognize that there are lots of people in the room. All of them need to be honored, appreciated, and we need to be grateful for all the service that each of you are doing. That is the first part. So, second part of it is, this allows us to get to the Tattvam. What is the Tattvam of Tattvamasi? In the spiritual context, we know our consciousness. But in the context of Bharati Puja, in the context of learning Samskritam, teaching Samskritam, what could that Tattvam be? And how do we understand the Tattvam of Samskrita Bharati? In some respects, learning Samskritam, as many of you know, there are places around the world, they are finding just reciting Samskritam slokas brings certain amount of readjustment in the neurological domain. They found people speak clearly, people bring certain amount of alignment of different kind that seems to happen for them in their what you might call emotional diseases as well as physical diseases seem to get readjusted by saying Om in a particular way. Some of you who belong to Yoga Bharati, you also know the idea of being able to do yoga with a proper mantra is what makes up yoga. When you go to a gym where a person just teaches as exercises like a calisthenic and some kind of exercise, that doesn't necessarily become yoga, because it needs to be connected with what you are speaking, what your body is doing, what you are experiencing. If this manasa vacha karma, kaya vacha manasa, if there is no alignment, the breath, the word and your body, if they are not having a trikarana suddhi, your yoga is not going to become as effective as it could be. So in that respect, for example, the Tattvam, you need to know what is that essence. So like in music, they call it bhavana, raga, thala, bhava. You may be able to say right sahityam with right raga. Technically, you may be very good. You may be maintaining perfect thala. But if you are not singing it with that bhava, people just, the Vidushi and the great scholars do not respect what you are singing, because when you sing with bhava, that raga produces the effect, that the sahitya begins to show something. So that means bhava and tattvam are very, very connected to. So whatever we are doing, whether it is we are doing Bharati Puja today, whether we are learning Samskritam, whether we are teaching, or whether we are in our home, being with our children, or at our work, doing whatever work we are doing, what is the bhava with which you are actually doing? That becomes extremely important. For that, in a puja context, before we do, even though we talk about Shodashopachara, 16 different steps that you need to do for puja, most important that they don't talk about are the 16 what you call puja vidhanas. Avahana, it starts, Shodashopachara. But before Avahana, first there are two things which are very important. One is Sankalpa. Who is doing the Sankalpam? That means Adhikari. First, somebody has to say, I. You need to raise your hand as you have raised as a volunteer, as a Karyakarta. You have actually taken on certain Adhikaram to be able to learn and teach this to other people. And then what is the Sankalpam that you have made? And what is the Sankalpa you want to make for 2020 for yourself, for your family, and for the Samskrta Kudumbam, and for the Samskrta Bharati? That you need to become clear. So if you can do that, then and put that as a Druda Sankalpam, not just any ordinary Sankalpam, when you have a firm Druda Nischayam, when you make it, this is what I want to make happen in my life in this year, or at work, or in Samskrta Kudumbam, then you develop the Adhikari. How do you develop the adhikar? What do you do? Like in a puja, when you do, you wear a toram. You actually have a certain action by which it represents that you have taken on that particular oath. It is because this is literally taking the oath. Then you can start the Shodashopachara. Till then, you cannot do the Shodashopachara, right? So what is the Sankalpam? So you might call, because of the time we are doing, Sankalpam first, resolution next. New Year resolutions are coming up very quickly, right? So each of you look at why most resolutions don't work. They are only resolutioning whatever is already there. They don't have the Sankalpam for that. This year, I promise you, whatever resolutions you are making, do it like you are doing through the proper puja vidhanam. Whatever I am teaching you, whatever I'm, all this you know already, but I'm trying to put it in a different context. If you can do it like you are doing puja this year, whether it is the weight loss, whether it is a new job, whether it is a career change, whether it's a job change, whether it's a family wellness, you will begin to succeed a lot more. So you might want to think about what is my sankalpam, new sankalpam. What is the new sankalpa in the context of the larger vision that I have? By the way, you cannot have sankalpam in one direction and vision in another direction and your karyam in another direction. That is when you have no trikarana suddhi, there is no alignment. First of all, you need to make sure all of them are aligned. Kaya, vacha, manasa. Obviously, first vacha, then what you call manasa, think about it, and then you act on it. That's how you do it. So, my recommendation is, have it very clearly. Meditate through the month of December. What should be my New Year Sankalpam? And in this larger Sankalpam, and once you have a vision for the next 5 years or next 10 years, break it down into what would I like to start? What would allow it to be a Shubha Sankalpam and also great beginning? So take that part of it. Don't try to take your vision and divide it into 10 parts and say the first part I am going to get it done. It is not how it happens. As we all know, breaking through the resistance in our mind, breaking through the old habits, breaking through the autopilot takes a lot more energy. Once you break through that, then making progress becomes a lot easier. Like somebody said, if you want to build a 20-story building, you won't see building for a long time in the beginning because they need to create a deep foundation. Only after much of the work in foundation is done, then the building, first floor, second floor, third floor goes very, very quickly. Similarly, what foundational effort you need to do this Bharati Puja in the context of your 10-year vision, in the context of your Sankalpam. For that, think through rest of the December. And once you meditate on it, you recognize all the Karyakartas, all the volunteers are all what you call Archakas in this puja with you. In your case, your family members also for whatever you are doing. Because we need a pujari to do the puja, right? Archaka, somebody has to work with you. Without other people, without Samskrta Kutumbam members, without what you call Parasparam Bhavayata, without both all of you working together, it becomes harder. Whether it is your spouse, whether it is your kids, whether it is your manager, you need to work together. And then, what is the bhava that is appropriate for you to accomplish this sankalpa? What is the mental state? Like yesterday when I was talking to Govinda Mahodaya, I said, use the word mindset. What is the mindset that is appropriate for me to accomplish what I want this year coming forward, rather than in the past several years that I tried but failed. I tried and sometimes I even gave up what I want because I think it is not possible for me to achieve it. My recommendation is start again. Start with a clean slate. Start with a, what you call proper sankalpa, and have hope, have faith, optimism. Like somebody said, even in the management literature, they say if you want to achieve anything, there is an acronym they use, HERO. H means hope. You have to be positive about what you are doing. E means efficacy. Efficacy means you need to have a certain time, you will Attempt it, you will fail. Attempt it, you will fail. But you need to learn to deal with failures and develop the certain amount of resiliency. Then you have high efficacy. That also develops self-confidence. Your self-esteem issues and some of them will go away once you anticipate and prepare for the failure and look at what to deal with. HE. R means resilience. Again, resilience is something necessary because many times if you are taking some higher goal, bigger aspiration, greater vision, if you have it, chances are you may fail a lot more times. But only time you fail is when you give up saying it is not possible. As long as you are still trying, there is still a higher chance that you will succeed. That is where the resiliency comes. Resiliency to keep trying freshly. O means optimism. Be optimistic about various things. Some people ask what is the difference between a hope and optimism. Hope gets you onto the journey. But optimism keeps looking for the glass half full, no matter what happens, and then that positivity, that ability to keep thinking positive aspects will get you the help which you need and to move forward. So, what is the important bhava as you move into 2020 so that your puja becomes very successful? Na mama is the mantra that I found is very useful. Not mine. Good it is happening, it's not mine. By the grace of all other people helping me, it is happening. That's what we call nishkama karma, right? Karmanye vadikaraste mahapaleshu kadachana. Everybody knows that in one way or another. So first start with the feeling, this sankalpa bhava, I need to do samarpana. So how do I do that? With nishkama karma. Detached but engaged. You are detached with the fruit of action, you are detached about the fruit of action, but you are engaged in action. That is when it becomes a karma yoga. You won't become like I have a process, I have number of steps, I keep checking and I keep getting frustrated because I do 90% of my to-do list, but what I want doesn't happen. What we forget is the 10% we have not done in the to-do list, those are probably 2 or 3 most important parts. If you look at it, the same 2 or 3 items you keep leaving every day, every week, every month. Other than the most important 10%, 90% you are doing very well. And then you wonder why we don't accomplish the kind of results. So, once you do namama, the arrogance is gone, aham is gone, certain ownership is gone. What you call a kartrutva bhava and bhoktrutva bhava. Both of them if you can let go, then it becomes easier to do those tasks. Once you do those tasks, then with the bhavana of namama and nishkama karma, you actually work with it. How do you develop that nishkama karma mindset? This is the last slide. That comes by, there are 2 words in Visishtadvaita, they use the word sharanagati. Trust, do what you can, trust that the divine will take care of what needs to be done. If good happens, it's not mine. Bad happens, it's not mine. The second, in the Dvaita Bhavana, the phone is ringing, but somebody must have also gotten a message. And so, in the Dvaita Bhava, they call it Dasa Bhavana. In the Dvaita context, they call it Dasa Bhavana. That's why Purandara Dasa, Ramadas, many of these people, they are called Dasas. Why? When I look at I am the Dasa or Dasanu Dasa, then it becomes much easier for me to be a leader. When leader thinks I am at the top of the world and everybody else should serve me, then we end up like Trump. But if we recognize being at the top means the pyramid has to be inverted. You are at the bottom of everybody else. You are serving there, everybody else. By the way, this is not just a concept which we have. Even in the Western management, they call it servant leadership. When we can operate because we are in a leadership position, it is our job to serve, then we get the Dasa Bhavana that easier. And all of them, it comes down to, and most importantly, when we can do ego samarpanam or whatever we consider to be precious. So, of course, organizations like this depend upon our charity. So Dhana Samarpana is very welcome. But even more importantly, some of you might have already done, but being volunteering, taking on roles of responsibility and participating in growing the Samskrta Kutumbam and Samskrta Bharati, various things which we have, Praudagana, Balagana, Safal, various things. If you can take on positions of responsibility and figure out a way in which you may not know how to do it, but if you can say, "Na mama, somebody will help me, they think that I can do it, I will put in everything what I got to make the results come through." If you can do that, then finally when you do puja, why do most people do puja? To get prasadam. Right? So ultimately, it just so happens that my name is also Prasad. Okay, so what is that prasadam that you do? Number one, enlightenment by reading in the original language, scriptures, Puranas, Upanishads, various things, and understanding the deeper meaning. And literally reliving, because like somebody said, Vedas, not only they are not touched by human beings, they are something that is regenerated. They are like frequencies. Whenever there are drashtas, they see it freshly, they hear it freshly. Maybe when you truly do this Samskrta Puja and Bharati Puja, maybe you will have new insights as you read, and that might allow us to do new interpretations and new applications of all the wisdom that is there. That is where you get enlightenment. Second one is enjoyment. You can imagine, like for me, it is such a pleasure to be able to bring this and talk about it and make sense of our own stories. Like for now 30 years, from 1989, I have been doing this research in the management on one side, brain research on the other side, but it all keeps connecting back to whatever I have been learning in Upanishads or Yoga Sutras or Ayurveda or anything else. So my sense is that there is so much we have, and that when you discover it, when you understand it, when new insights come in, that joy is like truly Brahmanandam. And finally, the joy of working together with other people. Again and again, when you learn people who are like you, who think like you, who may be able to add to your life by bringing their own capabilities, their own skills and knowledge, and to work with you to enrich not only your life, but also all the people who are coming here to learn. If you can do that with that seva bhavana, and the prasadam that you receive will keep on giving. Hopefully, that is what would be more powerful way to create a vision for the future, for our Samskriti. Yoga Bharati, Samskrta Bharati, all of these are all doing the same context. If we can come from that place of doing the puja today with the Samarpana Bhavam, with the Dasa Bhavana, and then use the same technology which I just mentioned, which is part of our puja, into setting up your resolutions and to doing your work. I'm sure 2020 is going to be a brand new year, not just a brand new decade, and you will accomplish things that you have never accomplished before, and your life and your